welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, and on today's extra special episode we are talking all things, I can't even think of the word actually, not quite supernatural, but there's something definitely going on at the White Octopus Hotel. So Alex, hello, welcome to FPTV. What can you tell us about your brand new book?
So the White Octopus Hotel is a time travel mystery and romance. So it's kind of a bit of everything. And it's about a woman in modern day England who travels back in time to a hotel in the 1930s. And the hotel closed its doors for mysterious reasons and never reopened them in the 30s. And it's meant to be full of various magical objects. So she's exploring those, and while she's there she meets her favourite composer from the past, who's called Max, and really it's about their love story and sort of untangling various things from their past.
Yes, yeah, and this, I have to say, this year in particular, because we had the wonderful Maggie Stevelarter on a few months back to talk about The Listeners, so we've definitely got the kind of time travel kind of spooky hotel vibes kind of going on, which yes I'm very much here for. Where did kind of the research start for you? Did you like stay at some spooky hotel that may have kind of...
Yeah, well, I have stayed at some spooky hotels in my time. There was one in Flagstaff in Arizona that has a reputation for being haunted, and it sounded so much fun when we were booking it. And then when we got there, we were all just completely freaked out and thought, actually, this has tipped over into not being fun anymore. They had this particular ghost story about a bellhop that would come around knocking on the doors and say room service. And I was kind of tormenting myself by looking at it on my phone in the room. And when there was a knock at the door, so I was just completely, I was so scared. But it was actually my brother.
Okay.
So yeah, I think scary hotels have like a really cool atmosphere because I think it's just all of the sense of history that they've got, and like a sort of sense of time lingering there sometimes. So yeah, and there's the other main hotel that I kind of was inspired by is actually in Disney World. There's a ride there called the Tower of Terror, and it's based on the Twilight Zone, but it's all done as if it's a hotel. And I first rode it when I was 12. And I thought it was just so fantastically atmospheric, the way you'd get these little strains of jazz music or just sort of echoes of the past. And it was something I've wanted to do for ages in a novel. So
I saw something quite recently. I think there's a YouTube video about this food vlogger that I follow, and he stayed in like the most haunted hotel in the north of England. And one of the rooms just had this doll sat in the chair.
No, that's a big nose.
And you were just like, oh,
yeah,
I'm not staying in this
I mean, I don't even really believe in ghosts as such, but I'm very susceptible to the idea of them, and my imagination gets carried away with me if I'm staying somewhere that's a bit spooky.
Yes, you start seeing kind of shadows.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, definitely. So I suppose because you have the interesting thing as well of the kind of the objects like the octopus itself. So was that something you were kind of keen to have from the start, these kind of like objects that almost kind of pull you into a different period of time?
I liked the idea of it adding to the mystery of the hotel and what is it, why is it there, like, you know, it's just the fact that it's not just spooky, it's got sort of magic in it as well, and the kind of pleasure of finding out what the various objects do or don't do, or some of them, you know, you have to be in the right place at the right time or in a certain mood, and you know, they don't just reveal themselves altogether, so they have to be sort of teased out, and I just felt like it added an extra dimension to the idea of the hotel for me, that the objects inside it had a special significance all of their own.
So what can you tell us about our main characters? Obviously we have, it's such an interesting kind of duo, I suppose, and not necessarily the traditional kind of love story that you would expect.
So I mean, well, Eve is the female protagonist, and I actually rewrote her character in the end because originally I think she was too soft and too nice, and I prefer sort of spikier, a bit more prickly female characters. I just find them more interesting to read about and to write about. So she's quite like buttoned up and hostile to the world, and she's had, you know, various things in her past that have, you know, led to her being that way. But she just sort of sees the world as being her enemy. And then Max is from the past, so he's served in the First World War in the trenches, but he is a musician, and that's what he wants to pursue. But I did have to keep tweaking them to make them fit together, because I felt like in the previous versions they didn't always. So I sort of layered them up and tried out different versions of those characters before I was happy with these ones.
It's such a especially kind of the character of Max, because I suppose quite often, and maybe kind of in more the traditional kind of love story, that you kind of get the almost like the hero kind of mentality of the guy, like the knight in shining armor kind of thing. But obviously kind of hearing and, you know, reading about where he's come from and what he's dealing with in regards to kind of, you know, fighting in the war and stuff. Like how important was that to kind of to get that multi-leveled, like very believable and very raw.
I mean, it is quite important to me, I think, because when I was like a teenager, or sort of around 12, I really enjoyed reading like some of my mum's old romance books, and I, you know, and I still think they're great, but they are very much the man will kind of swoop in and save the woman. And when I tried to reread them as an adult, I didn't find them as satisfying. I just left me feeling a bit hollow. So in this book, I wanted, you know, really for them to save each other equally, rather than one being that, you know, just one being the hero and one being the person who needs saving, because, you know, I think it's just a bit more true to life that they're both just really flawed, and they've both had, you know, sort of difficult things they've had to get past, and I think that is more realistic for that kind of love, that, you know, when you find the right person, it's sort of, you meld together and it makes you a better person. So yeah, it's not as, I think it's kind of quieter on the page than the dramatic swooping in, but I find it quite interesting to write about.
And there's definitely, obviously, for both characters, for, you know, similar reasons, I suppose, that weight of grief, of expectation of what they should have done and what they could have done to maybe kind of, you know, helped other people, saved other people in their lives. Also felt kind of really raw. Where was that kind of coming from?
Well, I liked the idea of trying to write a book about second chances, and the fact that even when you can, because I think everyone at some point finds themselves in, you know, like a bad place where that you just don't want to be in, and the idea that you can come out of it like just bit by bit, and it's not what you were, you know, imagining your life to be, or you know, you've still got the regrets or the grief or whatever the issues were before, but you can just move forwards with them. Just because it's, I don't know, it seems more true to life for me again, and I like the complex nature of that, and the kind of messiness of it.
And there is some humour in there, so everyone at home, it's a beautiful book, but there is a lot of heart and a lot of humour in there, so, you know, it's
I want it to be a hopeful book, like an optimistic book.
Yes. So the element of music, obviously we have the kind of composer character, the music element. Did you have a playlist for the book? Is music kind of an important thing for you in your writing process?
I don't use music in writing, because I think I'm just too easily distracted, so I can't like write to music. Okay. I just have earplugs in. But I did sort of like the idea of music being, you know, I think music can be helpful, again, if you're feeling not great, because it's like, I mean, things like books or friends, all of the other coping mechanisms you might use take a little bit of time to get going. Whereas with a song that you really love or you know, connect with, as soon as the first bars of that song start to play, I think it can change your mood. And I've used music like that before, like in my personal life, when my children were very young and there was a lot of crying and not sleeping. I had a song that I used to play just to try, and if I was finding it all too much and needed to walk away for a minute, I would play this one particular song. And I said to my husband, I dread to think how many times this song has been played on our Alexa this year. But it was more that, really, that music, I think it can be like a real helpful thing for managing your mood. But I think that the American publisher is going to do a playlist though. That I mean, I provided the songs just for ones that make me think of like the hotel or that are linked to the book in some way. So that was fun, but just not for whilst I'm writing, because then I just sit there listening to music.
In regards to the song you mentioned that you listen to many times, can you still listen to it now, or does it kind of pull you back into like,
yeah,
oh God,
I did feel like I wanted to have a little break from the song
Okay.
after a while, so I had to pick a different song and move on to a different one, because I was playing it too much when I was feeling really crap, so I spoilt it for myself.
Just put that over there for
Yeah.
the time being. So we mentioned obviously off camera that you've had a few books out before, that you've kind of written in different genres for different kind of age groups. So how does the process differ for you in regards to kind of like tackling, you know, a book kind of aimed at a adult reader?
I mean, I think the main difference is that there's more research, and because of the type of book that I do for adults, it's a little bit more, really it lends itself to being plotted, and I'm not very good at plotting, so that's the main thing I find more challenging. So my children's books, I feel I can get away with not really plotting those and just writing it and then going back and fixing all of the stuff later. But I mean, obviously with a time travel book, it does need to be plotted, because you can't write it chronologically.
Yeah.
Not for all of the characters. You could do it for one. So that's the main challenge for me, is having to like get a bit better at plotting, and trying to carve out time for the research as well, and then trying to figure out what to use in the book from all of the research I've done and what to not. Can be tricky sometimes, because it's all so interesting to me and you can't put it all in there. So
You've probably almost got enough for another book.
Maybe.
Like all this research over here.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever kind of find as well? I can imagine, especially with kind of time travel like stories, that you can almost kind of, because they're existing on, you know, like almost like some kind of multiverse.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, where did this character get to? And hopefully I haven't kind of written them into something I can't get. You know?
Yeah, it was a real challenge for me, because like I say, I always prefer to write. I've always written chronologically, and I could do that for Eve, but I couldn't do it for both her and Max, because he'd be in scenes that he's already, you know, met her and they've got a history, and so I had to work a lot harder at that, and I did find that quite tricky. It was really time consuming. I had to have, you know, timelines and lots more notes, and I had to be a bit more organised than I normally am.
And we have to obviously mention the rabbit, the bunny. So we've got like a Alice in Wonderland type element to it. Was that an influence of yours, and have there been kind of other things that have influenced this book and your work in general?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the book Alice in Wonderland, and obviously it's so like iconic. You know, with the rabbit, I really wanted something that is a monster to the main character, but to everyone else would look completely harmless, because it's individual to her, and it's the thing she's traumatized by isn't something that anyone else could look at and see. It's scary, because that's part of the isolation for her, is people not understanding how it feels to be in that position or whatever. So yeah, I guess Alice in Wonderland, you know, because it is this through the looking glass thing where nothing is as it seems, it's, you know, there is, you know, echoes of that, I guess, in there. I mean, the other influences probably it's anything to do with like time travel. There's a Richard Matheson book called Bid Time Return, which was remade into a film with Christopher Reeve, that's a love story and that's time travel, and I really enjoyed that when I was a kid and still now. And there's a German TV series called Dark that's a really cool time travel thing, and that's really kind of everything's so knotted up and interwoven, and it kind of reveals itself bit by bit, and I love that kind of mystery story where there's not just one big reveal at the end. There's lots of little satisfying things along the way where you get to find out what's been going on with it. And obviously the Twilight Zone, which I came to through Tower of Terror in Disney World. Because I love, with the Twilight Zone, the old one, you know, from the 60s with Rod Serling, I love it's quite a quiet show really, but the idea that nothing is as it seems, or something's just a bit off, and it's that creeping, unnerving kind of feeling. So yeah, it's probably all jumbled up in there somewhere.
It's definitely because when I first heard about the book and I received an early proof and it was something that really appealed. There is a game I played as a teenager which was very like pivotal to my kind of love of gaming, and it was Xenogears. It's by Square Enix, so the same people who do Final Fantasy, etc. But it had a love story of these two characters that are fated to meet every like 100 years or so, but something always kind of gets in the way, and you see kind of glimmers of their past lives as they start to kind of remember each other from past lives.
That sounds awesome.
It was kind of, for 15-year-old me, it was very kind of like, wow.
Press the buttons.
So whenever like something like this comes on my desk, I'm just like, immediately I have to read this, and it was beautiful. So thank you so much for writing it. So coming towards the end of the interview, so kind of what's next? Like, what projects have you got coming up? Is there anything kind of you can tease us with?
Well, I've just finished editing a children's book, which is back to my kind of what I mostly do, I suppose, which is like a magical adventure kind of story that's focused on other worlds and friendships and just fantastical, adventures, because that was what I liked the most when I was that age. I just loved disappearing into another world with this group of friends, and even now I love that kind of story so much for the escapism, and just because it's so fun. They're fun to write, they're fun to read, hopefully, and so yeah, I've just been having a lot of fun doing that one.
And what are you currently reading kind of in your downtime? Are there any programs you're watching as well? Like, what can you kind of I'm not watching as much TV at the moment because I'm too tired in the evenings. But I have just, with my husband, we're watching the Terminal List spin-off, which is great. And then I'm reading Let the Bad Times Roll by Alice Slater, which I'm really enjoying because I enjoyed her first book, and this one is set in New Orleans, which is my favourite city. So it's nice to be reading about the French Quarter, and it's a real page turner, and it's got lots of atmosphere, and I'm having a great time. And when this interview goes live, so this is going to be kind of November time on the run up to Christmas. So what are your kind of Christmas rituals? Like, what does your Christmas kind of look like?
Well, I love Christmas, so and now that I've got two little kids, I can really go to town on it. Yes. So I love all of the holidays. We've got a Halloween tree up at the moment, but for Christmas, I mean, we have an elf, which I actually love. I love the elf, and although we've only had him for 2 years, so he's fun. And then we tend to, obviously we have a tree in the stockings, and we try to do lots of arts and crafts, and I feel like it's the perfect years because my children are little and they absolutely love it, so I'm very excited for Christmas already.
Yes, yeah. And to finish, what would be the kind of one book that you would recommend to people to either get for a Christmas present or buy for someone else if they haven't already read it? Like, what is your kind of seasonal, wintry pick?
Well, I quite like a ghost story at Christmas. So if it was kind of going to be a seasonal book, then I would. I actually do really love A Christmas Carol. It's the book that I have reread the most often in my life, because I think like the moral of the story is just really beautiful, and all of the Victorian Christmas stuff is great, and it just really makes me feel really Christmassy when I'm reading that by the fire. And again, in that one, I love the kind of idea that it's never too late to change your life and to do it differently. So yeah, Christmas Carol, I think, for me. And you can probably get some really nice gift editions of the Christmas Carol.
Oh yes, so yeah. Sometimes you get the kind of beautiful collector's editions.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, I'm not going to read from that.
Yeah, I did see that there is it's just going to be on the shelf. This year, Disney are doing a Muppets Christmas Carol advent calendar with little plushy Muppets in, which I really want, but it's very expensive.
Oh God,
so maybe one day.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And for anyone at home, there will be signed copies available in all 10 of our stores and on our website. So do grab a copy now and get swept away. It's a beautiful book. But we will see you next time. Bye.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.